Hey everyone, Erin Zen Warrior here. I am back. I am back from being sick with, I assume it was the Omicron version of COVID. I did my little rat test and I can confirm that I came up very, very positive. Looked a bit like a pregnancy test, so that's kind of amusing. And I debated a little bit as to whether I was going to talk about my experience at all with COVID. For obvious reasons, COVID can be quite controversial, especially since I'm unvaccinated. That was a choice I made personally. I stand not in general, I don't talk about it on camera. I think that everybody's entitled to their own choice, opinion, and I fully understand people have their own fears and needs and their own systems and their own comorbidities as well. My opinion with regards to that for myself was very much a personal decision. In saying that, how did I get on with what I assume was the Omicron version? We do have Delta variant in New Zealand still. I assume it was the Omicron version simply because I don't want to overstate anything. As an unvaccinated person, people ask me if they thought I suffered more from not being vaccinated. My answer to that is I will never know. We do not have the statistics or the studies really to prove one way or the other whether I would have been better off or not better off, particularly with the Omicron variant, which it has been suggested that the vaccine doesn't really work for it. In New Zealand, we only had one vaccine that was available to us, and the information that was supplied at the time was not enough for me. It was enough for other people, and that is perfectly fine too. So what did I do and how did my experience with Omicron go? Well, or what I assume was Omicron. It was a bit odd, I have to say. I've had far worse things in my life that I thought were more likely to kill me, particularly tummy bugs that had you throwing up and shitting your guts out from every angle. Those things left me unable to hold down water and things like that. I've certainly had flus where my whole head feels like I'm in a fishbowl, my body is sweating and aching and paining. I wish that it would all stop. To be honest, I guess we were mentally a bit more prepared for this, but also I didn't get every symptom altogether at any point, which was interesting. I had body aches and I had an elevated temperature and briefly I had a fever. So with that, I, of course, didn't feel very energetic. That was the worst part of it for me. It started with a little tiny cough. That little tiny cough was very sporadic and could have been food allergy kind of response, but I knew it wasn't. I knew it was odd. And then after I finished, on the Monday night, I finished a presentation online. I could feel myself getting sicker through that presentation, just like you would with any flu. And then by that evening, I definitely had a fever. I took this supplement along with a few others, including this one, which is an immune complex one. I'm the importer for these in New Zealand. I love these supplements. They're practitioner grade, but don't require practitioner sign-off, which is pretty cool. This is an optimal mushroom complex of 4 different mushrooms at their optimal dose. They're super high quality, organic, uncertified. This product's uncertified though. And I love this product. I use it to boost my HRV, to do all sorts of cool things. So I use this. And also when I hit that fever, I've used this. This is a product that I can't sell you. It has a couple of things in it that I found particularly useful, including melatonin. And I feel that the melatonin, which has some interesting research around it, actually dropped my temperature within half an hour of hitting that like sweating hot cold thing. Within 30 minutes it was gone and I went to sleep. I also slept really well using these products. And I was hitting, as you know, I measure with the Oura Ring and I also measure with the watch, though I use this a lot less when I was sick, just because it magnetically interferes with you more. I found I was hitting easily 2 to 4 hours of REM sleep a night, which is crazy amounts. and that I was also hitting 1.5 to 2.5 hours of deep sleep every night for 10 days. I also used this product. This product's available at your local organic store. I love this product. This is actually not the advanced version. This is the normal turmeric one that they do, but they do an advanced version, which I had to begin with, and then some lovely person bought me this one while I was stuck inside or stuck at home, and I still found this very good. It works with pain as well, so I didn't use paracetamol. I used this instead. And I had a very sore jaw, so I found that super useful for the sore jaw. But as I said, I didn't have a blocked nose, I had the little tickle cough, but that disappeared as soon as I started to get the more serious, and when I say more serious, the more annoying symptoms, which was the sore jaw, the body aches that affected my head, but not a headache, and then the temperature. So I did that, and I found this super useful for just making all of that quite bearable. I also used acetylcysteine. This is a practitioner-only product. Acetylcysteine helps you produce glutathione in your liver. Glutathione is your master antioxidant. A lot of stuff that seems to work naturally for COVID and for boosting your system and for clearing you out and like processing everything through happen to relate to the liver, which I found very interesting, including dandelion, which we've used in tea for years for angry liver syndrome, and also glutathione itself, which I also used, a practitioner level product of glutathione. My body sometimes doesn't convert NAC, which you can get from food, by the way, doesn't sometimes convert NAC into glutathione. So I also took glutathione, and that also apparently is very good for limiting the uptake of the spike protein. I don't have it sitting here with me. I also took vitamin D, and I did my best to get out in the sun, but when I was having the elevated temperature, when I was sort of still around 37 degrees, going out in the sun was awful. It was not a nice feeling to try and sunbathe. So I would go out for like 5 minutes on either side and then just go back inside, and it was not fun. It was also quite hot here. So for Wellington, it was still like 26 degrees. Things that I use, I also used quercetin, which is an has anti-inflammatory properties and is known to be good again in this situation with this particular virus, but would be good with any, to be honest. It's anti-inflammatory, and when you're sick, you're inflamed. So this is a quercetin complex that has vitamin C in it, quercetin, nettle leaf, and bromelain, which is an extract you find in pineapple and basically helps you digest and break down protein. So that again is practitioner grade, but you can get, and I was using, a liposomal vitamin C with quercetin in it that you buy from clinicians off the shelf. So I also used that. I also used a cmax. Where is that? Over here. I also used cmax. That's practitioner grade, but you can get something off the shelf as well. I used cmax and liposomal C. I don't use cmax late at night because it keeps me awake, and I wanted to sleep really well, and I think it's really important that you rest when you're sick and you're really careful about how much you train. As a result, I did very little but walk, and I wasn't really motivated to stretch, which I probably should have done, but I just didn't feel it. It was very stiff and tight for me. Naturally, every day, as part of supporting my system, I use a probiotic. I use slippery elm to help plug any holes or perforations in my 1 cell thick gut lining. Everybody's gut lining is 1 cell thick. I would recommend that to any of my clients, that they support their stomach and their digestion, particularly if you have signs of issues with your gut or you're reproductive, which often indicates that you already have gut problems. Also, if you have comorbidities, I would recommend that no matter what you've done to support your system, vaccinated or not. Magnesium, this is a base building block. You need this to get better from training. You need this to get better from all sorts of things. Magnesium is deficient in our soil. I take it, I soak in it, I spray it on my skin. I take it multiple times a day. I take more than the RDA. So I would have been taking this at night and also through the day. Also, it helps with the aches. Mito Excel, this is a practitioner, Orthoplex practitioner supplement, and it's loaded with stuff. I use this because I find it really good for supporting my system generally. So I was using this too. My HRV, so my heart rate variability, was absolutely in the toilet. I looked like I'd been smashing alcohol every night, which I wasn't. And this product helps me with my HRV a lot, so I was using that a lot. On top of that, I think I mentioned this mushroom complex. There's also another one called Inner Peace that I have, and I used Inner Peace a lot. And again, I use Inner Peace to support my system and my adrenal health. And I found that really helpful. It's got a lot of mushrooms, Ayurvedics, naturopathic stuff in it. Once I did maybe a day and a half, 2 days with the aches and the jaw ache and the muscle stuff, and my temperature played around. As my temperature started to dip, so did, and I would get moments of it being normal and not having any aches at all. But as that started to disappear, I started to get a cough. That cough was phlegmy and it stuck at the back of my throat. And I heard of someone else with the same problem, that where the cough and the phlegm was sitting, like sat on your throat, so that in your esophagus, so you actually wanted to throw up. And I did throw up twice, but not because I felt sick, but because this phlegm was sitting in the wrong place. That cough itself lasted about 3 hours and was very random, very rare. So it's like for 3 hours I had this cough that was just in the wrong place. Twice in a row, within a couple of minutes of each other, it sat in the wrong place and really did push. And the rest of the time I was trying to like move it, I guess, which is a bit gross. I wasn't hungry, so I hadn't really eaten much. It's not like I had much to throw up anyway. And I drank a lot of coconut water and fluids, going for the isotonic kind of natural stuff. Then that passed and it just moved into a bit of a phlegmy cough and a little bit of a snotty nose turned up. But I was always able to breathe totally, and I was always able to breathe. I was always able to clear my nose, so it was like it would get a little gluggy, but I would clear it out and I was able to breathe fully. When I had the fever, the brief fever and then the elevated temperature and the body aches, I was fine with breathing, which I was really surprised by. The next symptom that rolled in, so we had tickle cough followed by a little bit of a spike in temperature to fever and body aches, and then that would sort of play around between normal. Then as the body aches disappeared, I got the phlegm cough and a bit of a snotty nose and the occasional stab in my head, like just random stabs of pain, like the muscle tensing on the outside of my head, not inside. It wasn't a headache. And then as the last symptom I got was my ears blocked up, which was really weird because I had a little bit of cough left, my nose wasn't doing anything anymore, all the other stuff had gone, and then I got this weird like blocked ear symptom, and then they would start popping around. And I'd used my infrared sauna blanket and stuff, and it had happened after that, like after I'd really heated my body up and sweated. So I did sweat as well to try and move this on, and I used the infrared, which is really regenerative and repairing. And so, yeah, and then the ears were popping, but actually, I still had the sort of popping in the ears when I tested clear. But I was no longer coughing, everything else had gone. So that was kind of my last symptom. However, the thing that really hit me, and I think the thing people should be really wary of is, I'm just looking at my camera to make sure it's still recording, is actually most of my symptoms were done within 7 days. I seemed pretty good, but my HRV was still really struggling and my energy was really struggling. And I was isolated by myself with a cat. I had beautiful friends. Oh my God, I can't even thank all of you so much for checking in on me, delivering me with food. I'm going to do another video just to thank you for that because it was just so... I'm so moved by it. It was so touching. People dropping off rat tests for me, and I didn't have to go out and try to do anything other than try to get better, which was such an amazing thing. And I know I wasn't able to either, but I didn't even have to do like contactless pickups of anything. Thank you all so much. But after the first 7 days, when I started to feel like I should be right, I kind of got depressed. Because I was energy low, I didn't feel like moving, I didn't feel like exercising, and I just felt very down. And I talked to a few people about this because I realized I needed to connect. So I reached out and I went, okay, I feel like shit. Mentally I feel like shit. And other people told me they'd experienced the same thing. Like really nihilistic sadness. Like, I'm just going to go back to working. I love my job, don't get me wrong. But to think like that, like I'm just going to go back to working and then one day I'm going to die. So I want to warn people, I guess. Be wary, whether you've been vaccinated or not. Be very wary of the sadness that can set in. And I was watching my HRV and in my head I was like, this too shall pass. I didn't want to meditate. I didn't want any part of that. I just wanted to lie there and feel miserable. I would force myself to walk and my arms wouldn't even swing. Like my arms just hung limp by my side as I plodded along the ground, along the road. And I was like, no, I've got to move. I'm able to move now. I've got to move. I've got to get out there and get my blood flowing around my body. And I knew this was important, so I was doing it whether I wanted to or not. As my HRV finally hit what I would call my normal range, I was waking up and my whole mood shifted. And that took 14 days from getting the first lot of COVID. I was very careful not to over-exercise, not to push myself, not to do too much. But I was also careful not to do too little. And I started hitting minimum requirements that my gadgets were telling me for calorie burn. So I want you to be wary of that. The other thing that I didn't do that I wish... I also use did I mention I use vitamin D as a supplement as well as getting in the sun? The other thing that I didn't mention that I wish I had done, and I had forgotten about this, neem comes up as super valuable for clearing out viruses. A practitioner friend of mine mentioned it to me when I finally got in touch with him because I'm going through a treatment course with him. And I had paused it while this was happening and I need to restart it now. And he said to me he was having very good success rates with neem, N-E-E-M. It's an Ayurvedic, it's very powerful. I've used it for many other things before. It's good for a lot of things like clearing out candida and other stuff. He gave me a dosage rate for that. If anyone wants that, PM me. He said he was having very good success rates with it moving the virus through fast. Again, we don't have any double blinds on this. We don't have any of that. I would argue we don't have a lot of that for a lot of the stuff that's been suggested and used here. But he said he was having good rates of success. I suspect, knowing how powerful neem is as an Ayurvedic, that maybe I wouldn't have suffered the down that I did if I was able to move it through even quicker. In summary, overall, pretty much every virus I've ever had has been worse than this on a physical level. The length of it was pretty annoying. The lockdown, isolation, I think is very dangerous for some people with certain headspaces, especially if they're like me and live on their own. I would look after your people. I think that's really alarming. Some people won't get it. I think it affects everyone differently. Do I think I'm better off? What I know now is I have natural immunity, so that puts me in the same boat as someone who has been vaccinated. Maybe in a better one. That's an argument that's out there. I'm not making any assertions to that here. But I'm really pleased to have that I've done it, that I've got to that point, that I've had the experience, and that my body now has some knowledge of this thing. And I was also really happy that I actually, from the person who we think I got it from, to actually realizing I had it, I only had contact with one other person. And so that was super awesome. I didn't infect any of my clients, which was always a concern of mine. I have a lot of high-risk clients with comorbidities, and I didn't want to infect anyone or cause any harm. And that was super important to me. If you have any questions about what I did to help me, vaccinated or not vaccinated, I think this stuff helps. I have heard of people who are similar age to me, similar fitness levels, having a much worse time from the sounds of things. So I have also heard of people having the same depression thing that I had, which was hideous. And the worst of it, to be honest, that was the worst part by far for me. So yeah, happy to talk to anyone about any of those things. Feel free to PM me. I know this is a super long video. And once again, thank you so much to all the people who showed me so much love. What a cool experience it is to feel that and to experience that. And whether it's one of you or someone else who I can help, let's share the love. Have a great day. Where's my little